I like doing that to just realize it's not possible, but it is. 1975. The voice you're hearing is Tom Mulcair. Tom is in the building, as they say today, because there has been pretty big news politically today.
Yeah.
So welcome. It's great to see you again,
Great
by the way.
to see
We've
you.
seen each other since the beginning of the summer.
Exactly. So, yes, this came out of the blue. I, very honestly, was not expecting Singh to do this at all. You actually have to read what he put out, because everybody's saying, well, he's sort of threatening to take down the Trudeau government. But then you sort of read it and he says, well, maybe if there's a confidence vote, I can vote for it. Or I'll decide on a case-by-case basis.
Let me backtrack. For
Sure.
people who don't know,
Yes.
if you've just tuned in, at around 1 o'clock this afternoon, Jagmeet Singh issued a statement. And we were told that the media was tipped to say it's going to be a very big story or a big statement. In other words, something significant,
Yes.
right? This is what Jagmeet Singh said.
Today, I notified the Prime Minister that I've ripped up the supply and confidence agreement. Canadians are fighting a battle for the future of the middle class. Justin Trudeau has proven again and again he will always cave to corporate greed. The Liberals have let people down. They don't deserve another chance. There is an even bigger battle ahead. The threat of Pierre Poilievre and conservative cuts from workers, from retirees, from young people, from patients, from families. He will cut in order to give more to big corporations and wealthy CEOs. The fact is, the Liberals are too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people. They cannot be the change. They cannot restore the hope. They cannot stop the Conservatives. But we can. In the next federal election, Canadians will choose between Pierre Poilievre's callous cuts or hope that when we stand united, we win. That Canada's middle class will once again thrive together. In Canada, we take care of our neighbors. That's who we are. I've embraced that value my whole life. I'm running for Prime Minister because together we can and will stop conservative cuts. We can deliver relief and restore hope. Fix healthcare, build homes you can afford, stop price gouging. It's always impossible until it isn't. It can't be done until someone does it. If we're together, nothing is impossible. And we won't let them tell us it can't be done. Big corporations and wealthy CEOs have had their government. It's the people's time.
Okay.
Yes.
What's with the dramatic music, by the way? Was that the...
Well, this is called painting yourself into a corner. So let's unpack a little bit what just happened, what we just listened to.
Let me go one step further back and say this comes in the wake of Pierre Poilievre just a few days ago, calling out sellout Singh and suggesting that he go ahead and do exactly what he did today. This is kind of a win for Poilievre, I would guess.
No
but
question,
go ahead.
because he tweeted today calling him sellout Singh again, although I'm not a big fan of name calling. I'll leave that to the Donald. But he's going hard on Singh because he's been going after Singh's vote. He wants to win an election, and he's been going after Labour. He voted for anti-scab legislation, something that you would have never thought the Conservatives would do. So he's been going hard after Labour. He's pulling apart some of the vote from the NDP from the right. The Liberals under Trudeau have been doing such a good job of delivering NDP social programs like pharmacare, daycare. Today he was making a big announcement on school food programs.
Dental care.
So these are all the types of things that the NDP has promised in the past. And this is the piece that's missing, is that Singh, first of all, is not saying he's going to defeat the government on the first confidence motion. You have to read this thing to realize there is a fair bit of theater involved in this. But what he's also the most worried about are the two upcoming by-elections. And why is he so worried about them? Well, one of those by-elections is in a Winnipeg riding called Elmwood-Transcona, held by the Blakey clan for most of past several decades. There was one other fellow, another NDPer in there between Bill Blakey and his son Daniel, but he didn't last for very long. But it's basically been, with one exception, when Harper got his majority, it's been an NDP riding forever. And it looks like the NDP is going to lose that one. So they've got all of their guns and their abilities focused on LaSalle and the Verdun riding. I mean, this LaSalle, Imard, Verdun. They are in a very close race there. They've got a great candidate that you and I both know. Mm-hmm, yeah. I think he might have had something to do with your wedding.
He officiated at my wedding, yeah, Craig Sauvé.
Craig Sauvé. So a very good guy. And he's doing a great job. I mean, he's running a good campaign. So Singh knows that his 3-point jump shot at the buzzer is trying to win that by-election, because it's getting very tough for him. What I've been told inside is that on the doorstep, they keep getting, so why are you voting for Trudeau? If you're such progressives, why do you keep voting for Trudeau? If Trudeau's so bad, why do you keep voting for Trudeau? So this is a move that has everything to do with that by-election.
It's interesting that you say that, because up until now, all we've heard is, if the Liberals lose this by-election, here we go again, St. Paul's, Toronto, and this is just another sort of dagger or nail in their coffin, if you will.
For sure.
Is this worse if the NDP loses this than if the Liberals lose it, or is that not a fair comparison?
It's not an NDP riding now. It was during the Orange Wave with Jack, but we weren't able to hold on to it in the 2015 campaign. So I don't think it would hurt Singh that much, but losing both of them, because people do see that he has a chance in the Montreal riding. But if he loses that Winnipeg riding and this one, then he's really in a tough spot. Trudeau loses LaSalle. I mean, you have to know the demographics. It's three very different places. Verdun is resolutely progressive. It's where Quebec Solidaire wins. It's where the NDP has a strong candidate and has a chance of winning most of the vote. The one in the middle, Émard, a little bit of Bloc, a little bit of NDP, maybe even a bit of Conservative, and the Libs will be in there. Traditionally, LaSalle is very liberal.
Right.
Very big parishes there, very strong support. Liberals have all, this was Paul Martin's riding. If Trudeau loses there, then if you thought we went through a tsunami after he lost in St. Paul riding in Toronto, man, people will be gunning for him then.
So a couple of questions. Number one, and I brought this up the other day because it didn't get talked a lot about when Pierre Poilievre came out with the sellout Singh statement, is the fact that forget about the polls that show the Conservatives federally continuing to run well ahead of the Liberals. Nothing much has changed. The numbers are big,
every
right?
single poll, yeah.
What people did not talk about was the fact that the NDP went from 20 or 21% to 15%.
Yeah. And so
well below where they typically poll.
Yeah. And, if you're at 45% and you drop down to 40, it's a 5 percentage point loss, but it's on a much bigger number. When you start at 2021 and you go down to 15, that's, in terms of the overall loss of your votes, it's huge. So it's what I was describing before. On the left and on the right, they've been bleeding votes.
Yeah.
And so this is an attempt, a pretty desperate attempt to shore it up. Do you remember the time that Michael Ignatieff, he was up in Sudbury, he just pronounced sort of out of the blue, "Mr. Harper, your time is up"? He didn't get to decide that. It was a minority government. He didn't get to decide that he was going to, we were in the NDP. We had more than enough votes, and we really did well with it. Jack, we worked hard together on that particular issue. And our reaction was, Michael Ignatieff's not going to dictate to us what we do. And that's the missing piece here, because Singh and the people around him have been desperately trying to spin that, no, they're not listening to Poilievre. And I'm sure that that's true, that they're not listening to Poilievre. But the darn timing for them is last week Poilievre was in front of the microphone saying, "Mr. Singh, tear down this government."
Yeah, right, exactly.
And then a few days later, Singh does just that, offers to perhaps defeat them. Where it's going to be almost impossible for Singh to navigate is when the Conservatives come in with a confidence motion, because they are the official opposition. They get to have what are called opposition days. They get to put a votable motion before the House. I would put in, if I were one of their advisors, like an 8-word motion which says, we no longer have confidence in this government, or words that simple. And then what does Singh do? Does he vote for or against that motion? And it's going to be a heck of a conundrum.
So I'm asking you, what do you do in the event that was to happen, right? Trying to basically force their hand. What happens? What do the NDP do? If they don't decide to bring down the government, what was the point of walking away from this agreement in the first place?
Yeah, and there would have been a way to finesse it if they had prepared the ground properly. In other words, if they had said, we're no longer expressing our confidence in advance of this government, we're going to take it on a vote-by-vote basis, they could have finessed it. But you just played, all of our listeners just heard this overwrought 1960s terminology. This sounded like something straight out of another era of the NDP. Jack and I fought against that type of terminology because it was off-putting for the average Canadian. Oh, we all know that Justin Trudeau's all about corporate greed. What? You've been voting for him for the past 3 years. What? Where does this come from? And do you think anybody is actually believing that sort of rhetoric? And that's what it is, overwrought rhetoric.
I would also ask at this point, if nothing does change, so after today when people react to this, and people have brought this up before, if Jagmeet Singh has lost that support within his own party, this whole idea of him stepping down as the leader of the NDP, when does that come into play?
I think that as backdrop to all of this, it's there. In the sense that he's been there for 6 years now. The vote, is not very strong. The number of seats is about half of what it was when he came in. And yeah, I think it's getting trickier and trickier for them because several of his MPs have either already resigned, like Daniel Blakey, that caused the by-election in Elmwood-Transcona, or others who have just said they're not running again. So there is some of that. It's a very disciplined caucus. The NDP is not like others who blabber to the press behind the scenes. But there's definitely a lot of that pressure there, and that's what he's feeling. And so this is... I hesitate to use the word desperation move, but it really does smack of a certain type of desperation. He's just sort of going, okay, this is my last shot. I've got to give it everything, and I've got to give it this best shot.
So we have to wrap. I will ask you one last thing, and I do appreciate you coming in.
Pleasure.
What happens next? What's the next step here that you see?
The next step is there's going to be a confidence motion. And you can be sure, because at 3 o'clock in 45 minutes, Pierre Poilievre is going to be going before the cameras. And unless I miss my guess, he's probably going to say what his motion is going to be. And then the pressure is going to be right back on Singh, because if at the first opportunity he doesn't bring down this government that he just derided as being there for corporate greed, well, good luck for the rest of the movie.
What good is your word if you're not going to follow through, in other words?
Yeah, I mean, huffing and puffing is one thing, but...
blowing the house down is a completely different thing. Do you think he does this or not? On the first try? I
think that he's going to swallow himself whole and vote for Trudeau. I can't see him provoking an election at 15% in the polls. I mean, that would be... I think that he would pay a very heavy price in the polls.
And as you've mentioned before, and no money in the bank necessarily, right? It costs money to run. They're not exactly, flush with cash.
The NDP has more money than it usually does at this stage, and Singh deserves full credit for that. The Liberals have a bunch more money than the NDP. The Conservatives have several times more money than the Liberals and the NDP put together. This is the inheritance. This is the succession of Harper. He knew about fundraising. He knew about making lists. He knew about how to connect with people, how to use every single issue as an excuse to do a fundraiser. And they've never been shy about getting 5, 20, 30. They'll make requests for $54. This is just numbers pulled out of thin air, but they know the game better than anybody. And so they're ready for an election tomorrow.
But is the NDP ready?
No. Not fine. They'd really find it a hard time.
When there's always lots to talk about, this is the place to have your say. Montreal Now. CJAD 800.
Well, I think the NDP is going to have to make decisions about whether or not they want to stand with Pierre Poilievre, who's going to cut the school food programs, cut dental care, not deliver on pharmacare, or whether they're going to focus on what it means to Canadians to be there to give them support through this difficult time and to be investing in the future, whether it's drawing in global investments or fighting climate change at the same time. Every politician gets to choose whether they want to play politics or whether they want to serve Canadians. And I certainly hope that the NDP will stay true to its fundamental values, which is making sure that Canadians get the support they need and keeping away the austerity, the cuts, and the damage that'll be done by Conservatives if they get the chance.
Okay, so that's kind of nicely stick-handled, I guess, right?
Well.
Take your shot at the Conservatives and then say to not get mad at Jagmeet Singh and the NDP, but just say, I hope that given what they've done and making this decision, I hope they can still focus on what they promised Canadians.
Well, it's an interesting contrast with the very overheated rhetoric we heard before from Jagmeet Singh. Yeah. He's going, full bore against Trudeau. He's there to help corporate greed, and Trudeau's being a gentleman, just saying, look, I hope they think about their own values. This guy Poilievre wants to tear up things like childcare, pharmacare, everything else that we've done together. If you want to help him tear down our government, you're going to live with the consequences.
How do you defend that, though? So it's interesting you bring that up. So this supply and confidence agreement, they got childcare, they got family or pharmacare, they've got what they wanted apparently going in, and now maybe we should play the song. Tom suggested this might be the perfect song to play on a day like today when the NDP have decided to pull support from the Liberals. Go ahead.
Away from me.
It started a little late. You missed the first line because it's here.
If you go, then I'll be blue.
Why?
'Cause breaking
That's
up
right.
is hard to do.
Thank you, Neil. Breaking up is hard to do. That's exactly what this is. This is the NDP breaking up with the Liberals, but not necessarily saying they'll never talk to them again.
Well, I mean, that's the theater part of this whole thing. It's like we didn't even hold a press conference. The NDP put out a video.
Yeah.
Mr. Singh didn't take any questions. And it was a video in which he used prepared lines that were very hot against the Liberals. that he's been in the sack with for the past couple of years. So I'll let our listeners decide what they make of it. I know what I make of it. It's just a desperation move, for want of a better term, at this stage of the game, where he knows that he's in trouble in Elmwood-Transcona in Manitoba. He's hoping against hope that he can somehow pull off something amazing with Craig Sauvé.
So
in the
this is his
Montreal
Hail Mary.
It's exactly what it is. Yeah, it's a Hail Mary. And I think that Mr. Singh knows that he's playing, he's gone all in for himself and for the future of his leadership.
I asked you just during the break, and this is interesting. You would have a much better idea, I think, than most people would. When I heard this today about this big announcement at 1 o'clock, first of all, I assumed it was a press conference, not a prepared video. By virtue of the fact that it is a prepared video, it was obviously done at least a few days ago, maybe more than that, because it takes time to put together, to edit, whatever else. Absolutely. Do you think the Prime Minister had an idea this was coming?
I think he probably had a couple of days, like Singh officially told him recently, like today or yesterday, but I have a feeling that the Liberals are well enough informed that this was in the works. They have enough people that they're talking to. My nose tells me that Poilievre's Conservatives, who are very well informed, they've got great sources. Their intelligence is superior to the other parties. I'm starting to wonder if Poilievre last week, when he made that famous call for Singh to defeat Trudeau, to stop voting for him and to bring him down, I'm starting to wonder if Poilievre didn't have enough inside information then, because as you correctly say, if you're going to be doing something this big, you've got to have the right people on board. You've got to really make something professional. It's got to be, it's not done rapidly. It's like making an ad, during a campaign, you can't make an ad one day and have it on the air the next day. It takes a while. So yeah, I do think that there was a little bit of that.
So that you think Pierre Poilievre, the Conservatives, knew that this was coming from Jagmeet Singh, which kind of made him look like a few days later when he came out first, the whole sellout Singh, and you have to break this agreement. He knew this was on the way. And
Singh's answer, and by the way, the NDP have been pushing back on this, saying, no, this decision was made well before Poilievre asked us to do it, which sort of, and our whole caucus was aware, and we knew that we were going to have to pull the plug. And I was just joking before with Vashi Capello saying, I don't know, that would be the first time in Canadian political history where an entire caucus is aware of an impending decision, and none of it leaked. But the ability to have been working on it before, and for Poilievre to have picked up enough signals, that I believe.
I would just bring up one last thing. I had Alexandre Boularice on the show the day this came up and asked the question, and it seems to me that standard line was, the agreement is always on the table. It's not as if we just kind of go ahead with everything and anything they do. We're always looking at it. We're always make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. That was the line they came up with when they were attacked by the Conservatives.
Yeah, and that was a good line. And if the part that's very difficult to follow here is the lack of preparedness and the lack of preparation. So you launch something by video. Your main person, your leader's not there to defend, explain, or deflect. You're going to be sending out a few spokespersons, obviously, which is what the NDP is going to do for all the panel shows and the radio shows this afternoon. But at some point, if you haven't prepared the terrain, if you haven't prepared people for what's coming, if you didn't provide any arguments, you didn't make your case, then this just comes out of the blue. And I say it very, very openly. I did not see this coming, simply because it's very hard to figure out other than the context of the by-election. And that's very short-sighted, because it's one very specific date and one very specific event. But then do you get mud on your face every time there's going to be a confidence vote in the House, because you have no intention of really going to an election. So that's where the play acting comes in. It is theater.